Autoline Daily is brought to you by Dow Automotive Systems, improving durability and increasing design flexibility with Betamate structural adhesives at dowbetamate.com.
Here are today's top headlines. Toyota disputes a professor's test for unintended acceleration. More news on the raids of those Japanese suppliers. And the winner of the Autoramas Ridler Award achieves a historical landmark. Up next, we'll be back with the news behind the headline. This is Autoline Daily for Friday, March 5th, 2010, and now the news. Toyota has responded to that professor's demonstration who rigged up a Toyota Avalon to induce unintended acceleration. Bloomberg reports that Toyota says it is highly unlikely it could ever happen in the real world and could only be contrived in a laboratory. It also says it rigged up GM and Ford products using Professor Dave Gilberts' test and was able to induce them into unintended acceleration. Bloomberg also quotes a different professor from Stanford University saying that Dave Gilberts' test makes no effort to show that the short circuit he created is at all similar to the circuit in the car. And while that could be good news for Toyota, the company still faces a torrent of bad publicity. Now, 60 complaints have been filed with the NHTSA against the company. These involve cars whose gas pedal assembly was repaired at dealerships, but drivers still experienced unintended acceleration. NHTSA says it has the authority to order Toyota to come up with a different solution, but I would point out that nobody knows what that solution should be. So now the chairman of the subcommittee that held the first hearings on this Toyota issue is saying that people should not feel very safe driving a Toyota. Bart Stupak, a Democrat from Michigan, says Toyota clearly does not know what the problem is or how to fix it. And here's an announcement I bet they wish they could push back in the bottle. Fortune magazine came out today with its top 50 list of the most admired companies in the world, and Toyota came out as number 7. I imagine that survey took place before Toyota's problems exploded in the headlines. The Detroit News has more news on those raids on Japanese supplier companies. Last week, the FBI and their counterparts in Europe and Japan raided the offices of Denso, Yazaki, Tokai Rika, Sumitomo, and Furukawa. Authorities also visited German company Leone AG and contacted the American companies Lear and Delphi, but that seems more to gather information since it did not involve raids. The Detroit News says the investigation is centering on wiring harnesses and that these Japanese companies may have formed a cartel to try and limit competition. It says they face fines, damage awards, and possibly even jail time for executives. A car builder in Georgia has made history by becoming the first woman to win the prestigious Ridler Award at the Autoramas Car Show. According to the Detroit News, Tammy Ray of Dahlonega, Georgia, won the accolade for her customized 1933 Ford Phaeton named Gold Digger. Surprisingly, the car is not called that because of its bright color. Ray actually owns a gold mine in Georgia. Her hot rod took 3 years to build at a cost of more than $100,000, but hey, if you own a gold mine. 2 years ago, we produced a mini-series all about the auto industry in California. Autoline in LA covered all kinds of topics, from hot rods to design to an in-depth look at some of the OEMs based on the West Coast. One of the shows we did focused on car collectors, and one of the gentlemen I had a chance to interview was Peter Mullen, a collector of 1930s-era French cars, some of the most beautiful vehicles ever built. Now, Autoblog reports he is set to open a museum dedicated to these cars. The Mullen Automotive Museum is set to open on April 15th and will showcase his vast collection of Bugattis and other exotic autos. So, coming up after the break, let's go back in time and listen to Peter Mullen talk about one of his most exquisite automobiles. If you want to get a better idea of what may be in store for the Mullen Automotive Museum, Here's a soundbite with Mr. Mullen himself talking about one of the cars in his stunning collection.
And let's start with this one over here, this Delahaye that absolutely took my breath away when I came through the doors and saw it for the first time. Tell us a little bit about this car.
Well, that car, John, is my wife's favorite car. That is a 1939 V12 Fagoni-bodied Delahaye. Fagoni was the ultimate carrossier in France, the swoopiest, the curviest, the sexiest cars probably ever designed. And the French government engaged Fagoni and Falaschi to do two examples of this. One for the New York World's Fair in 1939 as an example in the French pavilion of the best that France could offer. And then a sister car for the 39 Paris exhibition, which was a virtually identical car. So there are only two of these 165 V12 Delahayes in existence. And because war broke out in 1940, this car never went back to France until a couple of years ago when I brought it back to show at Bagatelle. That's the first time the French had seen it since '39. So that was a real homecoming.
If you're interested in watching the entire show, you can always order a DVD for less than $20. Just look in the Autoline store for show number 1220, 1220. Well, that's just about it for Autoline Daily this week, but before we take off, I do have to announce the winner of our trivia contest. We challenged you to identify this concept car from the 1980s, and the correct answer is, it's the Buick Wildcat. And the lucky winner is Phil Prince from Raleigh, North Carolina. Congratulations, Phil. You just won an Autoline coffee mug. And that is it for today's top news in the global automotive industry. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week.